What is up, bros and broettes? I'm Inkslasher, and today we are talking about something very important if you want to succeed in Call of Duty World War II, and that is what are the top 5 weapons in the game. Now, you may be saying, you've done this video before, and I definitely have right when the game came out, and it's been a very long time since then, and there's been over 10 weapon patches, and the basic meta of the game has changed completely. Some of the weapons that were the best at the time are no longer the best, and some weapons that weren't even in the game are by some considered to be the best in the game. So what we're going to do today is talk about exactly that. What weapons are the top 5 and what weapons are going to be the easiest to use to raise that kill-death ratio of yours. Now, before we go through my list of what I believe the 5 best guns in the game are, I want to hear what your favorite weapon in the game is. What is your go-to weapon? If you're in a game, you want to do well, what is that one weapon that you pick? Let me know down in the comments. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say. By the end of this video, you'll know what mine is, but without further ado, let's get in and talk about what the 5 best weapons in Call of Duty World War II are. Now, I want to start things off by giving out an honorable mention, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't think this weapon is the top 5 in the game. However, it's my favorite. I love using this weapon, I do really well with it, and that is the STG. Now, the reason why I love this weapon is I think because I loved it so much in Call of Duty World at War. I freaking love that weapon in that game, and it's kind of the same in this game. Not to mention, it has a really good fire rate with a decent damage profile with very little recoil. Now, the reason why it's not quite as good as some of the other weapons in this game is it doesn't have anything amazing. It doesn't have an amazing damage profile. It doesn't have an amazing rate of fire, and because of those two things, it doesn't have a great time to kill. That being said, I still love it. It's kind of the same as back in Black Ops 3. I absolutely loved the KN-44. By no means was the KN-44 the best weapon in the game, but it was good, and so is the STG. So, don't count it out, give it a shot, maybe you'll like it as much as I do. Is it the best weapon in the game? No, but it is my favorite weapon. So that's why I gave it the honorable mention. That being said, coming in at number 5. So number 5 was the hardest position to pick out for me. Reason being, I think there's 2 weapons that could really take this spot. And that includes the Type 100, which you're watching right now, and on top of that, the MP40. Now, when the MP40 was originally released at the beginning of this game, I didn't like it at all. I thought it had too much recoil and not a good enough fire rate. Both of those things since then have been patched, and since then, the MP40 is actually a really good weapon. But I'm giving the slight edge to the Type 100. The reason being, the Type 100 is simply easier to use. There is less recoil, there is more range, a little bit more damage because of that more range. Therefore, you have to hit less bullets, which makes it easier to use. And of course, the less recoil also makes it easier to use as well. And because of that, it's just a very good weapon. It's an SMG that can excel at short and medium range, and you can even pick someone off at long range if they don't have something like a sniper rifle or a long range assault rifle. So, all in all, it's just a very reliable piece of equipment. It's a very reliable weapon, and that's why I put it at number 5. That being said, it could easily be replaced by the MP40. So, coming in at number 6, I guess you could say, is the MP40. Coming in at number 5, Type 100. But up next, number 4. Up next, number 4, this is the one I think a lot of people are going to argue with, disagree with, and that is the combat shotgun. But it's on here for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's got buffed since the beginning of the game. It got a range buff, and on top of that, a little damage buff. But it's also been nerfed since then, so it's not as amazing as it once was, but it's still very, very good. But the reason why I put it on here is because it's so easy to use. It's a shotgun. You can just fire from the hip and kill people at a pretty solid range. The one thing you're going to notice with this list is that there is no sniper rifles. Why? First of all the sniper rifles in this game are really good compared to other Call of Duty games. Most of them, it's pretty easy to get a 1-bullet kill with, minus the carbine. That being said, you have to be good with a sniper rifle to actually excel with the weapon, whereas the shotgun, you don't really have to be that good with weapon play to excel with this gun. All you have to do is stick to areas on the map where you're going to get in close range gunfights, and that's very easy to do if you're a little bit patient. So the reason why this weapon is on here is because it's a very good shotgun and super easy to use. So number 4 is the combat shotgun. Now that we're into the top 3 spots, these are 3 weapons that are really just standing above and beyond the rest of the weapons in the game. These 3 weapons I can all pick up or use and do extremely well. We're talking 4 or 5 KD pretty much on command as soon as I start using these weapons. These, in my opinion, are the 3 weapons that are just far too good compared to the other weapons. And number 3 is the BAR. Now, at the beginning of the release of Call of Duty World War II, I said that this was the best weapon in the game, and at the time it was. Since then it's been nerfed and nerfed again, and this weapon is still really good, and there's 2 main reasons why. The first of which is it has a really good time to kill. It's got a great damage profile and great fire rate, and compared to the other weapons in the game that don't have crazy high fire rates, it's just really good. On top of that, it has a decent range, and even more importantly, it's got low recoil, and we're talking really low recoil. Most of the time when you have an assault rifle with a high rate of fire, it's going to have a lot of recoil. Whereas in this game, it seems what they did is all of the assault rifles with a high rate of fire have low recoil, and weapons with slower rates of fire, like the FG42, like the M1 Grand, like the SVT, have higher recoil, something that's a little bit different than other Call of Duty games. Because of this, this weapon is extremely, extremely good, and that's why it's at number 3. Up next at number 2, this is a weapon that I think will be on everyone's list, maybe not quite this high, but that is the PPSH. And this weapon is just all around really ridiculously good. It has a really fast fire rate for the SMGs in this game at 722 RPM. On top of that, it has a large magazine and a good damage profile with decent range, especially for this fast of a firing weapon. Normally the fast firing weapons in Call of Duty actually have worse range. In this game, this weapon actually has pretty damn good range. On top of that, this weapon does have a high amount of recoil, but it's all in a straight line going up, which means it's predictable and therefore easy to control. That's why this weapon is really the only weapon on this list that takes a little bit of practice to make perfect. Because it has that higher recoil, you have to practice controlling it a little bit. But once you do, it's super easy to pick people off at mid to long range with an SMG that's really only supposed to be good at short range. Not to mention, this weapon actually got a little bit of a nerf recently, and that's to the aim down sights time and sprint out time. Previously, it was 200 milliseconds. Now it's 175 milliseconds, which means that it's faster than assault rifles, which means if you're good with the weapon, you're going to outgun a lot of people that are using assault rifles. So because it got a little bit better, it kind of moved up my list, and since I've tried it out since that patch, it's just a really strong weapon. But I understand that if it's a little bit more difficult to use, it may not be as high on some people's lists. But personally, for me, this is the second best weapon in the game. But the question is, what is the best? So a lot of you aren't going to be surprised at all by this one, but a lot of people actually haven't got their hands on this weapon simply because it's a DLC weapon. It came out in the Resistance pack, and that is the Volkstorm Gewehr. Now, this weapon, in my opinion, isn't just good, it is ridiculous. It is by far, in my opinion, the best weapon in the game. It's simply a better version of the STG and BAR. It's just better than them. It has a better fire rate, it has a just as good damage profile, which means it has a better time to kill. Always, at every range. Just in any situation, it's a better weapon. And that's all I can really say about this. The only downside to the Volkstorm Gewehr is it has a slower reload time and a slower aim down sights time, which means you have to be a little bit more passive with it. You can't be right up in the enemy's face, but that's okay, because with this weapon, it essentially has little to no recoil whatsoever. I still think this weapon may get a little bit of a nerf, maybe a fire rate decrease, maybe a range decrease, but overall, this weapon is just really, really good. And if you're going to spend your armory credits on one weapon and one weapon alone, it should be this one, because let me tell you, this thing is a damn beast, and that's why it's number 1 on my list. But like I said, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Do you prefer a different weapon altogether? And if you do, feel free to let me know down in the comments below, because as always, this does somewhat come down to personal opinion. I just believe very strongly that the Volkstorm Gewehr is the best weapon in the game. But like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, it'd be awesome if you could hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel and like what you see, you can always hit that subscribe button. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.